How's it going, PD team? I've got a useful tutorial for you today. We're going to be making a preset management node. You'll definitely want to use this on projects where you're working with others and you just want them to select a few options, limiting the changes the user can make. You can make presets for things like IOR settings, material settings, brightness values, colors, positions, or any settings that use float values, integers, or vectors. It's a great way of storing multiple data points that need to be recalled. Anytime you need to drop down with preset, this is for you. With that being said, let's dive in. Here's a working example of what we're going to be creating. You can see I created a IOR preset. If this was for working with others, I probably wouldn't expose these values, but for the sake of this example, I have them visible. So you can see here we can select a series of different synthetic material preset types, and all it's doing is it's recalling these values that we have set in here. I've also made 3 other preset types. So we have float, where you can select decimal point values. We have integers, which are whole numbers. You can see we can select any one of these, and then 2D vector. And I would go through and see which presets you would want to make. Now, you cannot make one node. So if I go inside here, you cannot make a node connector for changing the value data type because these ports can't be updated. So that's why I have individual nodes for each type of value. Now, with these preset makers, you don't have to use just one preset node. You can merge multiples to control multiple values. So in this example, I've got a simple example here with no preview. It's not fully built out, but just to give you a better understanding of what's happening here, is from this preset dropdown, these could be sticker labels with product colors and IOR settings, however many you want to merge. And what we do here is we can take multiple presets and merge them into one dropdown. So the first one here, when we select the first preset, it'll take the first of each of these nodes. And so I can go down the list and say, okay, my IOR is this for this product label. My positioning is this value. My color of the product is these colors, and the label is this texture. And so what it's doing is we plugged out the IOR. We're then taking the color in the base layer of a color layer and merging it with the image maker preset. It's then getting offset by this 2D vector positioning and then spitting us out 2 values for IOR and color. So it's doing a lot of the work for us. So we can, if we have a project that you have multiple bottles and you want the other users that are animating it or rendering to be able to switch the products out quickly, you can go ahead and do it this way. And it limits the inputs that the users can make. Before we go ahead and build this out, I want to explain what's happening here. So to better understand what's going on, at the heart of this controller, the shader switch. So what is this shader switch? Well, it's not just for shaders, it's also for values. And it's actually in the programming world, it's called a switch in JavaScript. And so to better understand what this is, I'm going to bring up a website. So if you just Google JavaScript switch statement, you get this. This is what the shader switch essentially is. The expression tag right here is our number value. So when we select 1, 2, 3, 4, it goes through each of these cases and then pulls out the value. So code block is the value that we put. So in our case with the shader switch, it's just a color, but the shader switch can also include values. And then there's our default. So here's a working example for selecting the date. You can see we have a callback on our computer for getting the date, and then it'll come in here and give us a date value in a string format. So let's go ahead and build this out. Okay, so I've got a basic texture here. We're not going to be working with it too much, but what we're going to do is we're going to right click in here, say empty group, and we'll call this preset float. And we'll start off with the float first, give it a color, and then we'll go inside. So double click. At the heart of this, we're going to do a switch statement. So double click shaders selector, so type in switch and you'll see shader switch, give rid of the preview. And we want all of these. So we've got 0 and 1. So I'm going to go down the list here and control click to add them into the list. And I'm going to get rid of this and call this preset switch. And then our out, we'll click and let go, say add new output, and we'll rename this to value, preset value. Okay. So when we go outside, you'll see that we have something to connect into, and I'm going to go ahead and plug this in to the IOR settings. So plug it in, go back inside. And next what we're going to do is we could connect these shader inputs directly into the input section, but you don't want to do that because then you have to go through and then rechange these, and that becomes kind of a nightmare. So to make preset tools, I found it's easier to double click and add a value first. So we add a value here, and I like giving these the color of red. We'll call this preset 1. And then what we do is we just simply connect this into here, into the first slot, shader 0. And then what we do is we change the type from float to whichever one we want to pick. So if we wanted to do 2D vector or 4D vector or just a standard vector, so that's our 3D vector, or we want float, or we want integers, which are whole numbers, you can select which one. I'm going to, for this example, do float. So I'll leave it default. And then what we do is we just drag this into the input. And you can see now when I go out and select it, we have a float input. So I don't have to convert the user interface by doing it this method. And so then when we take this and can duplicate this whole node structure, it's much quicker to swap it out for different data types. So I'm going to take this, duplicate this. And I'm not going to do all the shader switches, but I'll show you how this works here. So we'll plug it in, plug this in. And then you want to rename these properly. And I'll just do 5. So what happens when we connect these? The name will get pulled from this node. So we click and let go, click and let go, click and let go. There we go. So when we take this and we plug these in, it pulls the name from this. You can see now we have the presets. Now we don't have the selector in here, so let's go ahead and add that. So I'm going to go to the shader selector, add this in and change the order, put it up at the top, and you'll notice we have a number value. I want to change this to a dropdown. So I'm going to right click anywhere in the node. Make sure you don't select any of these values here and you say edit resource. And then we're going to go to the shader selector and we're going to change it to an integer. And instead of numerical edit field, we're going to do dropdown. And then what we do is we put our tag first. So in this case, I'm going to put preset and then the 2 dots, which is the semicolon, and then our first value, which is 0. Make sure you start with 0. And then I can copy this. I want to call this preset 01 like that. Copy it, paste.
Whoa, hold on a second. So you've made it this far. Clearly, you're enjoying the content. Would you consider clicking the thanks button on this video to help grow the channel's community so I can make more great content just for you? Any amount is greatly appreciated. If money is tight right now, then do me a favor and just smash that like button immediately. Now, back to the video.
No, I'm just doing 5 of them. You can do all 10. And there you go. So it's preset 5, semicolon, and then the integer, which is 4. So the first value that we put in here is our tag that the dropdown is going to be. So when I click away, you can see here's our dropdown with our presets. So go ahead and close this window, and then you can put your preset values in here. So I can put 1.5, which is glass, 1.45, 1.37, and so on. And then when we select this, it's picking these. So we can put glass, we could put water, we can make presets for any type of material that we want to select. Now, here's how easy this is to duplicate. So we called this one float. And what we can do is we can just control drag, change this to integer. I'm going to do int, go inside. Then we can marquee select the wires, hit delete, marquee the bottom presets, delete, change the preset values. So I'm selecting all of them, marquee selecting, change this to integer. And then we can go in and plug these new ones in. And there you go. So now when I select this, you'll see we have whole numbers. So I want to show you how the integer can work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a texture, do an input, set it to color, and I'll also add the emission, bring it up, drag it in as well. So I can turn the scale into a preset. So these work in whole numbers. So this is how many times it repeats. So what we can do is we can come in here to scale, add it in, add our preset connector. And then if I set this to 5, you'll see my texture is looped 5 times. I can do it 2 times, and you can see now it's previewing 2 tiles horizontally and vertically. And that's all there is to it. It's a super simple node. You can expand the capabilities of this if you so choose and go through and look at the different type of values that you want to add. So maybe vector 4D, vector 2D, and vector 3D, matrix, integer, float are the main ones that you'll want to pick. So pretty useful stuff. Before I go, I just want to mention you can make your own preset where you group a couple of these together. Let's say there's 3 values that you want to make presets out of, maybe color, maybe a scale, and maybe a rotation preset. You can take and add these to 3 groups and group them together and have one selector for all 3. And that's how you would have one slider for 3 integers. That's it for this tutorial. Hope you found it useful. Thanks so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on more content. Thanks for your support.